Breaking news. The fate of the Jews in Russia is uncertain. Why hasn't the Jewish Agency made plans to assist the Jews of Russia in evacuating the dangers of that country's ongoing civil war? On Monday, an editorial in the Jerusalem Post warned readers to prepare for Russian Aliyah. Putin's disastrous adventure in Ukraine has caused widespread discontent in Russia, as evidenced by the attempted assassination of Wagner Group leader Yevgeny Prigozhin. The report warned that Israel needs to be prepared when and if that happens, for the repercussions will reverberate here. Despite the editorial's justification, another article questioned whether or not it was even possible to save the Jews of Russia. About 500,000 Russians may be eligible for immigration to Israel, according to government estimates. It's not a stretch to think that many of those 500,000 people might want to take advantage of their partial or full Jewish heritage to leave Mother Russia and come to live in a homeland that will, at the very least, give them a sense of belonging and relative safety, especially in light of the current unrest, where no one knows, from day to day, what will happen or whether conditions will suddenly shift. Given the danger these 500,000 people are in, why hasn't the Jewish Agency done everything in its power to get out of the country as quickly as possible? If the agency doesn't take on this urgent humanitarian crisis, then who will? From all accounts, it is the only official organization with the highest authority to carry out a large-scale exodus of a country's Jewish population. And safe haven for Jews. About a year ago, the Russian government ordered the agency to stop helping Jews in Russia move to Israel. The Russian Ministry of Justice has classified the agency as a foreign agent, which, if upheld by the courts, would make it impossible for agency representatives to enter Russia. Thankfully, no such judicial ruling has been issued as of yet. Since then, the agency claims it has been forced to reduce operations, laying off a large number of employees. This puts it at a significant disadvantage because it has fewer people to do the job and a weaker foundation on which to do it. Local Jewish community members in Russia have complained that the Jewish Agency is too slow in trying to cope with the number of Jews who already are interested in Aliyah, and that it is almost impossible to get an appointment in their offices. Is Jewish Agency capable of operating quick rescue Aliyah from Russia? Analysis, Svika Klein, Jerusalem Post, June 26. Reading that the Jewish people's flagship organization is helpless to save them during such a perilous time in history can be exceedingly frustrating if you have been praying for and deeply care about the survival of the Jewish people, and if you believe in and support the Jewish homeland as the ultimate place of refuge for Jews. What good are Israel's assurances to others who, like them, may one day realize that their host country is no longer a safe option for them and their family if the agency, the saving arm of the country, is unable to lead its ethnic brothers and sisters out of a potential fiery furnace? David Ben-Gurion, Israel's first prime minister, once said, after being forcibly exiled from their land, the people kept faith with it throughout their dispersion and never ceased to pray and hope for their return to it and for the restoration in it of their political freedom. There is, perhaps, no better time than the present to be reminded of these words. Every generation of Jews has been driven by the desire to return to their homeland by the traditions and history they have inherited. The State of Israel will be open for Jewish immigration and for the ingathering of the exiles. www.archives.gov.il/The Declaration of Independence. If Israel is willing to accept Jewish immigrants, then it seems reasonable to assume that its representatives, workers, and leaders would need to recruit the best and brightest in order to ensure the physical salvation of the Jewish people everywhere. Is it not embarrassing that the agency tasked with saving Jewish lives has been accused of being inefficient and understaffed? There are only two possible explanations for this. Those currently leading the Aliyah effort via the agency are either inept and ineffective workers whose efforts are insufficient and fruitless when it comes to helping Jews escape yet another harrowing fate, or they are no longer committed to the words of Ben-Gurion, as read by him in 1947 after the slaughter of 6 million Jews in the greatest act of inhumanity the world had ever seen. Israel's duty to the Jews of Russia. Israel, as the only Jewish state in the world, must change course or risk losing its standing as the only reliable haven for its people. Now that the security situation in Russia is so precarious, we need to take a hard look at how we let it get to this point where Jewish refugees can't reach American shores and be welcomed here. Whence came the lack of foresight to anticipate this upheaval? And why did other agencies that help trace people's Jewish ancestry wait until the last minute to get their own houses in order? Nativ, a group that conducts such investigations, is currently looking for a new director as the current one is leaving the position in August. To get permission for Jewish citizens who wish to leave, why hasn't our Prime Minister personally visited Russian President Vladimir Putin like he has so many other times? How was it possible for us to conduct Operation Magic Carpet, which airlifted nearly 50,000 Jews from Yemen to Israel between 1949 and 1950, and Operation Solomon, a covert Israeli military operation that airlifted nearly 15,000 Jews from Ethiopia using 35 Israeli aircraft in less than 36 hours? Is courage no longer prized? Is it true that we no longer possess such dogged determination when it comes to saving Jews? And does anyone really believe that the Jews of Russia will be the only ones to face this kind of predicament in the future? If we do nothing as dangerous events unfold around the world and countries with sizable Jewish populations become increasingly unstable, we will have only ourselves to blame for the annihilation of our own people, many of whom would have likely taken the opportunity to come to Israel even if it meant leaving their fortunes behind, because no one can enjoy their savings once they are dead. Now is the time. Israel, being the resourceful and forward-thinking country that it is, must take the lead in bringing its people home. It wouldn't hurt to pray to God, whose plan it is to protect his chosen people even in the darkest of times. The author has worked as the head of both a primary and secondary school in Jerusalem. Mistake-proof parenting, based on the ancient advice in the Book of Proverbs, is her other Amazon bestseller.